When you encounter a move that feels impossible, your problem-solving abilities can be the difference between getting stuck and sending. Keep watching if this sounds familiar. You fall off a move you don't understand, frustration kicks in, and after just a couple tries, you walk away. We've all been there. But when that becomes the pattern, you miss out on the practice and learning that actually builds your ability to solve hard movement. And that slows your progress more than you think. In this video, I mic'd up to take you through some tricky comp boulders. I'll share 5 simple but effective problem-solving tactics you can use to confidently work through complex moves so you can stop feeling stuck. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Last month, my gym hosted a youth comp and set 50 brand new boulders. This was the perfect opportunity to test 2 of my biggest self-proclaimed weaknesses, dynamic comp moves and slow technical slab. On my first session, I sampled the set and then picked 4 climbs to come back to. These climbs felt within striking distance, but would definitely put my problem-solving abilities to the test. Today, I'm bringing you along for my second session on these climbs. You'll hear my thoughts in real time, what I notice, what I try, what fails, and what eventually works. By the end, you'll walk away with 5 actionable tactics you can use to approach complex moves with confidence. These tactics are simple but effective, and they will give you a clear way to move forward when you're feeling stuck. Let's get into the first boulder. During my first sampling session, I did a 3 strikes format where I gave myself a max of 3 tries on each, and each try had to be from the start. Though I did end up making pretty good progress on this one within my 3 allotted attempts, I did fall on the last move twice. So that's where I started my second session, which leads us to tactic number 1. Movement is getting from point A to point B, so feeling out your finishing position helps you understand where you need to end up. When you're struggling with a move, part of the trouble may be lack of information. Once you know more about where your body needs to go, you can work backwards from there. This gives you reference points to adjust your movement and cues for what to focus on during your attempts. Let's watch this process on boulder number 1.
This last fold, it's not great, and my foot's gonna need to be up here. Gonna work my way back down. I'll start by doing the move with this left foot on, just to feel it out. That felt pretty hard. I definitely have to get pretty far over this right foot here. All right, this time I'm gonna try the actual move, and what I learned is that I really need to focus on getting over this right foot. Okay, so just have to really commit. Gonna try the full thing together now.
Let's look at the results of this tactic by comparing my videos side by side. First, using this logo as a landmark, you can see that my right hand is higher on the hold in the successful attempt. Climbing into the end position helped me feel exactly where it worked best, which was valuable information. You can also see a difference in where my weight was centered. Notice where my left foot is in relation to this yellow hold. By getting over my right foot more, I was able to create a more stable finish position. This side-by-side shows that even though the differences were small, understanding the end position allows you to make subtle but necessary tweaks to your movement. Let's move on to the next boulder. Boulder 2 had a multi-part coordination move. You had to dynamically step up onto the right foot and shuffle your feet along the hold to get to the blocked right hand. My 3 tries during the first session ran out very quickly. Since this style of movement is a challenge for me, I naturally tried to work around it on my first attempt. But it quickly became clear that I couldn't really cheat the intended beta, so on my next 2 attempts I tried the coordination. But I wasn't very close, so I had a lot of work to do for my second session.
I remember that I had trouble getting around this volume here, but I'm just gonna pull on and try a couple times before I make a tactic for how I'm gonna work this move. So that was pretty much the same. I kind of just went straight into this guy. I'm gonna pull on. Yeah, so same problem as last time, just figuring out how to get my body around this volume here.
After getting a feel for the move with my first few attempts, it was time to bring out tactic number 2, which is modify the move. Modification allows you to scale down the difficulty so your body can learn the movement pattern at a more approachable level. In the gym, the easiest way to modify a move is to simply add a hold. I actually briefly used this tactic on Boulder 1 when I used the yellow hold as a left foot. You can also add an intermediate hand hold, choose a different hold to go to, or change your starting hold. While these aren't possible outdoors, the easiest way to modify a move is to get a power spot. You can adjust how much assistance you get to change the difficulty. Now let's watch tactic number 2 in action.
I'm gonna modify it by adding this right hand in and see what that does. Oop. I wonder if I can also think about coming out, but also bringing my hip back around. Ooh, that was good. I almost could kind of double clutch that. It's definitely improving. Okay, let's try the rest of this. Okay, that last one was not easy.
Now that I've figured out the modified movement, let's bring in tactic number 3. Give yourself one cue at a time. This tactic is useful when you've figured out what you need to do, but you're still struggling to actually do it, or to repeat it consistently. A cue helps focus your attention. There's a lot going on at once, and it's easy to get overwhelmed by trying to micromanage every part of your body. But the key is that your body performs best when it's not overloaded with instructions. So instead of giving yourself 10 different cues, pick the one that feels most relevant and focus on it for a few tries. If it helps, great, keep refining it. If not, just choose another cue. Now let's jump back to the real-time audio and see this tactic in action.
So the cues that I was really focusing on with the modification was the arc movement of coming out, but then bringing the right hip back around, which was definitely really helpful. So I'm going to take those cues and I'll try the original move with them. Okay, that was definitely improved from my first try. I'm just going to stick with that since I made progress. My mind did get a little unfocused when I started to think about what I needed to do with the stutter step, but I think I just need to let my body do what it's naturally going to do and not worry too much about that. Just focus on that hip movement. Progress still. Gonna keep the cues the same, not make any changes. That was better. I was much more just concentrated on the hip and tried to let my mind go blank otherwise. I think there's oftentimes, especially with these multi-step moves, we can really start to over-instruct ourselves and it creates actually a worse result. So just going to do that same cue. It seems to be working. If I stop making progress, I'll change it up. That time I didn't get around quite as much. Okay, same result, starting to not get around quite as much. So now that I've kind of stalled on progress, I'm going to think of another cue. What I noticed was my counter movement was a little more straight back and up. That time, I reminded myself of the side-to-side movement and got a little bit different of a counter movement. And that definitely kept my momentum in closer to the wall and had a much better result. I think we found our cue, so I'm gonna take a rest and try that again. Well, that was very ugly, but we got it done. So moving on to the next one, I'm going to get on this pink number 42.
The third boulder revolved around making use of some very poor feet. The hands themselves were also actually footholds, so just enough to keep you on the wall, but the movement was primarily generated from the lower body. On my second and third goes in the first session, I struggled with this transition from the left volume to the right volume. So for session 2, I started there. The problem was the movement of placing my right foot onto the volume and then successfully transitioning my weight. So I began already in that position to feel out where my hips needed to be to make the move work.
Last time I had trouble getting my weight over on my right foot because I didn't quite get it great when I was doing it in sequence. So I might practice that move one time and see if I can just get the step over. Okay, so I'm definitely still having the same trouble because I'm placing it from this like turned hip position. And when I pulled on, I was like definitely more this way to reach. So the question is, how do I get my right foot on in a position from which I feel like I can move? Practice this again because it was hard.
Once I felt confident in the cue for the foot transition, I started giving red point goes. And even though I was now getting the transition consistently, I ran into a new problem, a red point crux on the final move. A red point crux is a move or sequence that isn't necessarily the hardest on the climb, but it's the place where you most commonly fall when attempting from the ground. For example, a route might have a hard boulder problem at the bottom, but the red point crux is much higher up because you get there pumped. That's exactly what happened here. The transition felt like the crux at first, but when I climbed in from the start, the next move became the red point crux. I was just tired enough going into it that my previous beta wasn't reliable, and I needed to refine it so I could perform it while fatigued. This is tactic number 4, refine the weak links. Sometimes your beta feels fine in isolation, but is a weak link on your red point goes. This is normal, and that's exactly why refining your beta is such an important step. After falling on this foot move several times from the start, I narrowed in on how I wanted to grab the left hand in a way that felt most consistent to create tension with fatigue. Then I tried it from the start again. The final boulder had a fast coordinated start with 2 dynamic step-up moves. Though I flashed the first move, the second one shut me down. Standing up from left to right was super challenging with no hands, and I fell there all 3 times. For my second session, I started with tactic number 1 to find the balance point over the right foot. Once I felt like I understood the finish position, I went back to trying the move. But I was having the same issue and had a lot of trouble controlling the momentum without any hands. I tried pressing into the volume with my right hand, then my left, but neither felt very close. At this point, I wasn't feeling very confident that this method would work for me, and so I started brainstorming alternate beta. This brings us to our final tactic. To find a solution, you have to be clear on the problem you're solving. This tactic applies to every stage of the process, coming up with beta from the ground, refining beta you've already chosen, or like in this case, finding a different method. Keep the question simple. What's point A? What's point B? And what specifically makes getting to point B difficult? In this case, point A was primarily weighting the left foot, point B was standing balanced over the right foot, and the difficulty was how far my hips had to travel between the 2 positions with the lack of hands forcing the dynamic speed. So the real problem I needed to solve was navigating the distance between point A and B. Here's what I came up with. Instead of using the higher but farther left foot, I experimented with doing a slower stand-up from the lower starting foot. Immediately, this felt more promising. Slower movement is usually a better fit for me, and it seemed like the more plausible option. I just needed to find the right position to stand up from. Once I did the stand-up move, I then had to figure out the rest of the boulder. Because the end of this boulder was intentionally slow, I could figure out my positions while on the moves themselves. I practiced the end sequence twice so I knew exactly where I wanted to put my feet and how to position my upper body to support the movement. Then I tried it from the start. And I fell on the last move. To be honest, I think I undercommitted and was a little off hitting the finish pocket and suffered the consequences. I rested my legs for a while and then tried again. That's it for today's session. Next time you feel stuck on a move, try one of these tactics instead of walking away. When you use every attempt as a chance to learn, you can stay curious, keep problem solving, and ultimately make more progress. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.